Jack Ross, welcome to this one-to-one. The title beckons, it's getting ever closer. Is it still the old cliche, one game at a time?
Yeah, I think it's got to be for us, and no surprise for me to say that as manager. But the one thing that we've had is an ambition and a goal from day one of pre-season, and that was always to be promoted. I don't think I've ever shied away from that. I was honest enough to say that we would look at the two ways of doing that within this division, which are either winning the title or doing it through the playoffs. Because of the consistency of the players, they've put themselves in a position to win the league. We also understand as a group that we're getting ever closer to it, which is important to stress that to the players. I don't want them to shy away from that. I want them to realise that they're close to achieving something very special.
Well, is it arrogance on your part? We talked to you when you were deep in the doldrums and you said, we'll avoid relegation. And then, at the start of the season, we had a chat with you and you said, we're going for the title. In Britain, we don't like people who are resolute in what they think.
Yeah, and I suppose there's a risk attached to that as well, because, as you mentioned, that by nature we don't take kindly to that, and then we also take usually great enjoyment in pointing out where we've tripped up. So they have expectations of themselves, and they're always striving to reach them. And once you create that, it can be pretty powerful.
Yeah, let's look at this title-winning squad and what they are going to offer. They're getting ever closer to it. Did you think that was on the cards really when you've got a club the size of Dundee United, who are red-hot favourites this season?
I think the quality and the ability was always there in the squad. The one thing I think that's developed as the season went on is the belief within the players. If we had spoke end of first quarter or even end of second quarter when although we were top of the league, did every single person there believe they could go on and be successful? Probably not. Some of them did. Some of them still needed to be convinced. Whereas I think now if you look at our squad, they're playing well, they have confidence in themselves, but they also have a great deal of belief and trust in each other, which is important.
Now, you're not a one-man team. I think it's a collective that's got you where you are. But I think one of your biggest coups has to be holding on to Morgan in that January transfer window.
Yeah, and that's where the relationship with the board and the chairman was vitally important for me. If I'd been at another club where that relationship wasn't as strong and there was as much understanding of what I wanted to do, it might not have happened. Because they were taking a gamble on it, if you like, because Lewis was out of contract at the end of the season. So there always had to be that collective agreement on that's what we wanted to do, and I was really strong on it naturally as a manager, but I needed support from a chairman in that sense, and he was steadfast in his approach to that as well, and we managed to get to probably the absolute perfect solution for us, for everybody. I think that for Lewis to get that move to a Champions League team is fantastic. It's a great reflection on us as a club. But we've also got to keep a player of his quality, and he's been a match winner for us over the course of the second half of the season, and so it could be vitally important us in achieving success. I think he's got a really good chance of being successful at Celtic. Again, we speak earlier about how we are as a nation and our culture and what we like to do. So a young Scotsman moving from another Scottish club to Celtic, people doubt right away. Sometimes if he comes from overseas at the same age, we think, yeah, we'll give him more leeway and he'll be better. Lewis is an immensely talented young man. He has a huge amount of attributes that could make him a success within how Brendan does things. He'll have to deal with the expectation and the pressure of being at a club of that size, and that will be a challenge in itself. But I believe from the conversations that I've had with Brendan that he'll get an opportunity. It's then up to him how he takes it, and going back to that earlier, he has the ability to take them. And for me, selfishly, I'd love him to do so, because then you feel as if you've played a part in a young player's progression. I'm biased because he's my player, but I think when you look at his contribution in terms of goals and assists, very difficult to get close to that. I've got several others in my squad that I would probably argue a case for as well, naturally, as other managers would do, but I think individually the contribution he's made has been huge to our progress this season.
And I know you won't mind me saying this, you're up against Brendan Rodgers. A lot of people think you're going to be the only man that can stop him winning Manager of the Year.
Yeah, I think that there'll be several candidates for that throughout the leagues in varying different circumstances. I always think it's a very difficult award to pick, because your judgment changes as a manager as well. For example, when I was manager of Alloa, did I probably have greater understanding of what other part-time managers were having to go through to achieve success? Yeah, I would have done. It changes slightly. How do you measure? Is it simply on silverware? Is it on progress? So always a difficult one to predict, and I think it's always one that creates discussion. But certainly if Brendan achieves or replicates what he did last season and achieving another treble, then I don't think you can really argue with that.
Yeah, where would you like to win the title? At home or maybe at Tannadice, which would be sweet when you consider their resources and yours?
Anywhere. I honestly don't care. I've stressed that to the players that anywhere, anytime, I don't really care. Just winning it is the most important thing. It has been, for me, it's been a great learning experience, because to win a title I've realised how relentless you have to be, and it's a lot of hard work that goes into it, and it's a constant striving for success on a weekly basis. The managers and the players that do that regularly win titles have my utmost respect, so yeah, I'd happily take it anywhere. And look, it could be in a couple of weeks, it could be in 6 weeks' time or 5 weeks' time. I don't care, as long as we get there, that's all that matters.
Yeah. If you're going to become a future Scotland manager, how do you think the current incumbent is doing? Do you think we're at a good stage where there's enough emerging talent?
I think it's a really good time to be Scotland manager. I think Alex has taken the job at an exciting period for us, and that's not based simply on the fact that we won a game during the week, as can often be the case. I do think, looking at the squad, not only the squad that was selected, I think when you look at some of the players that were left out because they were playing games, and maybe like Robert Snodgrass's, James McArthur's, because they've got big games at the moment in England, I think there's an energy, there's a pace about that squad. I think a lot of them are at a good age. I personally think it's going to be a good period for us. We may need to accept that we're going to take knocks along the way as well, and not be perhaps as knee-jerk as we sometimes are as a nation to suffer in a loss. But yeah, I think it's a good period, and I think hopefully that will be reflected in us eventually qualifying again for a major tournament.
Yeah, who excites you the most out of the young players and the players that are in his thoughts that are maybe not the experienced ones?
Well, I think it's very easy to look at the guys that catch attention and are playing at the highest level. You know, I think if you look at the progress of Andy Robertson and the level he's playing at and the consistency of his performance, I think he could be, albeit he's in a more defensive position, but we've searched for a talisman, if you like, for a long time, and we've always pointed to the fact that other nations have had them. You know, if you look at Wales, for example, they've had a Gareth Bale, so it's very difficult to equate the two of them. But if you look at somebody who can be a figurehead for your national team, if you like, Andy, Kieran Tierney's could fulfil that role, that they become players that we're excited about. We would love one probably higher up the pitch that can be a match winner for us in that sense. And then I think it's about probably trusting players like John McGinn, who, the thing I like about somebody like John McGinn is he's probably earned his place in the game because he's had to progress through different levels of it, still at a very young man. And I think he's somebody that has still got improvement in him. And I think if we can have faith in these players and stick with them as a nation, that's not just the manager, I mean as a nation, then we give ourselves a chance of success in the future.
My final question to you, and again apologies to St Mirren fans who will obviously want to hold on to you for as long as possible. You've had a couple of offers. You knocked back, or you took yourself out of the equation from Barnsley. You've had other offers as well. What type of club do you think moving up that ladder is going to be the ideal attraction for you?
It's not something I think about a huge amount because I'm so happy in the job here. I think to justify it to myself, it would have to be something that I believed was better than this, and this is good. This is a really good job. I'm very fortunate that my first opportunity to manage a full-time club was in one that, although it was in a difficult place for various reasons, has a great infrastructure in terms of the stadium, this training ground, a proper fan base. You know, it's a fan base that's demanding, but is incredibly passionate and comes from the town as well, and that's difficult to have. You don't get that at all clubs, so I think probably somewhere that would allow me to keep progressing and getting better. At the moment, as I mentioned earlier, I feel as if the job isn't even half done here in terms of where I want to try and take the club. Now, it may be that I get to fulfil my ambitions here. Right now, I'm incredibly happy in this job and enjoying it very much. You know, my biggest ambition in management is to manage my country, and I'm quite happy to say that simply because as a young footballer, my biggest ambition was to play for my country. I didn't manage to do that. I've got a B cap, but not a full cap. Never got close to being capped at full international level, and you know, growing up, that was my ultimate ambition. So, on reflection of my playing career, at times I will believe I failed because I didn't get to what I wanted to achieve. So, the ultimate for me in management would be to manage my country. Now, what happens in between, if I ever get the opportunity, I don't know. The shorter term ambition is very much to do. There's a long way to go in terms of realising the potential of the club. I think if we manage to achieve promotion this season, I think it's then how do we progress again. You know, I don't think we just want to go there and tread water. I think it's about how do we take the next step, and that satisfies me if I know that ambition's there.